Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of three. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. Tracy is a friend and fellow Monarch. We met in the Monarch community, and she is just incredibly motivational and inspiring and supportive. So I am so excited to be chatting with her today, but I wanted you to get to know her on a little bit of a professional level. So Dr. Tracy Skeapstra, PhD, is an award-winning educator with a career that spans over 3 decades. She has taught in a variety of educational settings with learners of all ages, from running her own creative arts center and facilitating workshops in schools across Ontario to teaching at 3 top-tier Canadian universities in education and dance. She is the founding principal of Walnut Forest Academy, which is going to be opening its doors for the first time this September. Tracy is also the creative soul behind the Love Project 365, a heart-centered business dedicated to helping individuals navigate transitions in their lives through one-on-one coaching so they can reach their full potential. Additionally, she is the co-founder of the education-based nonprofit Embodied Learnings. Tracy is passionate about helping individuals learn, grow, and thrive regardless of their age. She believes that community and connection are necessary for well-being, and she is committed to infusing love, joy, creativity, and fun into everything she does. And let me tell you, she does it well. Tracy lives in Eden Mills, Ontario, with her husband and dog Molly. She loves spending time with family, including her children and her grandchildren. Her favorite pastimes include writing, exploring the great outdoors, practicing yoga, and dancing. So this is going to be a fantastic conversation today. So good morning, Tracy. Would you just mind introducing yourself in your own words? I just did an introduction for you, but we'd love to hear who you are from you.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. It is really delightful to be here to have this conversation. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about myself and see where we go in this conversation. So my name is Dr. Tracy Skeapstra, and I am an educator and a writer as well as a coach. I have a PhD in education. So my background is actually in curriculum teaching and learning. And I've been an educator for over 30 years. And so I have worked with people of all ages, from really, really young children. And I'm talking about like from infants, where I've done music and movement programs with little babies and their parents, sort of through all the ages up to actually working at the university level. And I was an instructor and a university prof for 10 years in teacher education. And so I have kind of been on both spectrums. I've been in the classroom with families and teaching children, and then I've been on the other end where I've been helping new teachers to really see how they can bring the arts and other facets of education to their students. And one thing that I'm really excited about is I'm actually starting my own school. So I've kind of gone on this journey over the last 30 years. I started a nonprofit that kind of led into this idea that I really wanted to have a school. And this is where I get to go back and really focus on children. And I haven't been in the classroom with children in a while. So that is sort of my plan, and taking everything that I've learned and everything that I think is really critically important and bringing those pieces back to young children and supporting this next generation. And we can talk more about that and sort of how that came to be, because I'm both a mother and a grandmother, and being in that role of mother and grandmother has really also helped me on the trajectory of my life in many ways, in terms of the decisions I've made and where I've done pivots and kind of went, I think it's time to try something different. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you have done a lot of different things. So I'm curious because, my daughter's starting school in September. So, it's at the time where we're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Just to kind of see what they say. So when you got started going to school, did you envision yourself kind of being where you are today and like opening your own school and doing all the things that you've done?
You know, it's interesting. I knew at a really young age that I loved teaching. I loved working with people. I think one of the reasons I also do coaching, and I've done a lot of working with teachers in a mentorship position, and I've also done sort of more one-on-one coaching, is that I just love helping people learn and grow, which is what education is. So I remember as a teenager, people would say, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I really want to teach." But I always knew that the arts, because I was a dancer, I always knew that that would be part of it. But I didn't see the path straight. I think some people go, I'm going to just do this, and then I'm going to be on my career path, and away we go. And I've never felt like I was the person that necessarily walked a straight path. I kind of liked the meandering path as a creative soul who has more ideas than she knows what to do with. I find I'd
Yes,
be
me
like,
too.
oh, this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good. So sometimes my path was up and down and around and all over the place. So no, I didn't see that I would open a school, but it also was not a surprise. I think it's a really good fit. I think it's a really good place for me to land right now. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do with your school. It's called Walnut Forest Academy, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
I sure can. So we are very much rooted in experiential, hands-on, arts integrated and land-based learning. So we're very different than what you will find within a public school education. So I should say that I was very invested in public education my entire career. So I went to public school, my children went to public school, and all the work that I've done has really supported that system. And we're at a time right now where the public school system is not necessarily serving children in the best way. There's a lot of problems. And we could talk more about that if you want to. But what was really apparent to me is that I was having a lot of conversations, not only with my daughter, her son is the same age as your eldest. He turned 4 in June. Yours is 4, right? Your little one?
4 next month, so very close. Yeah.
And also some of her friends who had children in the same age group were really contemplating what they were going to do, but public school just didn't feel like a good option. And being so invested in what's happening within the system, and always just what I feel like I'm always sort of observing and talking to people, and I read a lot, I have a great awareness. I thought, you know what, I don't know if I would put my children into the system either. What else is possible? How could I be part of creating a solution for this problem? Not for everybody, but certainly within our community. And that started to really grow. And I said to my daughter, you know, I think this feels like a really good time in my career. I was starting to move out of teacher education. I was also teaching at Western, and where I live is just a huge commute. And I felt like what I was putting out was a lot. And I've always been called to entrepreneurship. So I thought, I want to see if I can take that and put that into something I can do for myself. And so that's how that was born, sort of school. But it's really is about getting children outside in nature. So 2/3 of the day, we are learning outdoors, whether it's on my property or within the community. And I'm in a beautiful area where we have, I live in Eden Mills near Guelph, and we have lots of forests and trails and places where children can explore. And so it's really child-led, it's inquiry-based. It's about children really showing who they are, what their interests are, so that they can really thrive and flourish without being pushed, which I feel happens a lot in public education, to kind of fit within a very particular idea of who they are. And I think that children lose their sense of creativity. They lose that sense of spark and magic because classrooms are really big and they're not always seen and heard in the way that they are in other environments. So we wanted to create something that really keeps that sort of spirit of the child alive through a really different model of education, which is, you know, pulling from lots of different things like Waldorf or Reggio Emilia. Like there's different, you know, types. And with my experience, I'm sort of framing it as holistic in nature, I think is the easiest way to frame it.
Okay. Okay. So for me, I'm not super familiar with kind of some of those teachings and how that differs from the public school system. But as a parent, obviously, my biggest concern is that my child is who they should be without being conformed more or less to the school system, but that they're still getting some of the fundamentals like English and reading and math. So I assume the 1/3 of the day where they're inside, that's what they're focusing on.
Well, we focus on it all day long. It's just integrated into
Huh.
everything we do. So we don't teach it in this sort of more traditional way where you break your subjects into categories. Now's a time for English, now's a time for math, the things that you would have grown up with.
Mm-hmm.
Very much about
Mm-hmm.
how we explore this world and how do we take math and science and we bring it into our observations, we bring it into our play so that it is always
Okay.
just part of what we're doing. We do projects. So example, we could be building
Mm-hmm.
a garden, but through building a garden, you need to
Mm.
understand how do we plant the seeds? How far apart do they need to be? What is their, when's their ideal growing season? So what do we need to think about the weather? Do we plant these seeds early in the season? Do we wait until the weather's warmer? Um, and so all of those pieces integrate, the different subjects. And language, of course, is very much a part of it too, in terms of asking
Mm-hmm.
the questions. And we can tell stories around the garden and learn about the plants and read about them. So it's a very different kind of process because we are doing things that children are actually getting their hands literally into and doing and exploring.
Mm.
Some children will be much more excited by being in the dirt. Others will want to learn the science of the growth of the plant. And that's where we get to really follow their lead and see where we can really build that interest that they have in those particular areas.
Mm.
So it's
Okay.
definitely different, which you can do when you have, a smaller group of students as well.
Yeah. So how many students are you aiming for your class sizes?
So we would not have more than 12 students a day. Yeah, with two teachers.
Okay.
A very small teacher to student
Oh,
ratio. Yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah,
That sounds really nice, actually,
yeah.
rather than being in a sea of 30 people in public school. Yeah.
Very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, because you said you're up in Guelph, which is not near me, do you know of any other schools in my area that do similar things? Or are you kind of a pioneer in your school?
There is a huge number of schools that are starting to form now and right
Oh.
across Canada. But I'm more familiar with Ontario. I'm not 100% who's in your area. I know of a couple people in the London area, um,
Mm,
which
that's
is,
pretty close. I'm 30
yeah.
minutes from London.
Yeah. So there, it's certainly, but more and more are doing it because I think people are realizing there's a need. And there's a lot of teachers actually leaving their school boards to create this for themselves. And a lot of
Mm.
it is because they also have children who are in the system that they want to take out and they want to create something that will serve their children and then their children's friends and those in the community. But it's
Mhm.
actually, I heard that in the last, I believe, 2 years homeschooling in Canada has doubled. So I do hear more and more people removing their children from school and actually leaving their jobs or finding a way to work and homeschool their children at the same time because of the changes in the
Mhm.
system at the moment. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I am obviously haven't looked up the stats because that's not part of my job, but I have been hearing a lot of people and I follow a lot of people on social media in various areas in Canada and the US. And it seems like there is very much a huge trend towards homeschooling and some of these alternative learning options, which I think is really good. Honestly, I've considered it for Talia as well. I've heard some unfortunate stories of my friends' kids going to kindergarten last year and the amount of like bullying that
Yeah.
happens in kindergarten blew my mind. And like as a parent, we want to shelter and protect our kids. So I have reservations about sending her off to school, but my partner doesn't think we have the capacity for homeschooling. So we're kind of at a crossroads.
Well, here's the good news is that you can do it at any point if it feels
Mm.
like at some, in the future that you have the choice where you can make that change. It's like everything, you always get to choose again. And so it could be that she has a really wonderful year. I mean, there are lots of wonderful teachers that are in the school system who really want the
Mhm.
best for the students. Sometimes it depends on dynamics. One of the things that's really come
Mhm.
about too is that there's a lot of emotional dysregulation right now, and the pandemic really created a lot of problems in the sense that the pandemic itself didn't. The protocols and procedures of keeping children at home, online learning, sort of the disconnect that we had really shifted the
Mhm.
ways that children were coming together and able to socialize and communicate with one another. And
Mhm.
so a lot of teachers have really noticed that children are just not as regulated emotionally. We are always had problems in the school with social dynamics that were harmful, such as bullying.
Mhm.
And and so I think what's happened is it's exacerbated because children just have less capacity to be able to be with others because they don't really have the tools or the skills to do so, right? Communication is such a critical
Mhm.
piece. If you've been separated, and now you're being brought together, it's like, what do I do with all these people that are here in my space? How do I, connect? And again, teachers are so limited because there's so many children. How are they able to actually do the work and reach every single one? And often they aren't. And there's just not enough support in the school,
Mhm.
to do that. And so that is a huge problem in general that teachers themselves are concerned about, and I think feel like their hands are tied. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like we've been trying to get Talia ready for school slowly. Like she's been potty trained for a while, but she's still not independent in that sense. So like this week specifically, that's one of the things that we've been working on. We've been practicing like our opening the lunch skills kind of thing too, but the potty I think is the biggest struggle right now. She's still very much think she needs assistance in that area. And it's frustrating. We actually had like a little bit of a blowout this morning about it because I was like, Talia, like you need to learn this. It's not that mommy doesn't want to help you. It's that mommy's trying to prepare you for mommy not being able to help you at school.
Mhm.
And just kind of trying to practice some of the conscious parenting skills that I learned from my episode with Amanda. And I think kind of the bottom line that I took away from that is just she's just feeling very overwhelmed with how independent she's going to need to be when she starts school next month. So, I mean, I don't personally, as a parent, know what to do to help her kind of overcome that. So, do you have any recommendations of things that we as parents can do to help get our kids ready for that transition if we decide to go into the public school system?
Yeah, I think transitions are definitely, I mean, they're difficult for all of us. I don't think it matters how old we are, but certainly for a young child who's going into an environment that they've never experienced before. I mean, I'm assuming she's been in other environments with children, but there's something about going into a full day, it's a full day, 5 day
Mm-hmm.
program. And
Yes, which I'm not ready for.
right, yes. And that's, so I think part of it is just being able to have that really open communication and talk about, what, is what this is going to be like for her. So besides the
Mm-hmm.
talking part, one, you can choose as a parent to slowly increment her into that school process if you want to. It is not
Oh,
compulsory that a child be in school when they're in kindergarten. It's compulsory
okay.
when they're 6, but not when they're 4 and 5. So some parents
Mm.
choose to put their children in at a different pace. So that is one option that you can do if you
Mhm.
feel that suits her best. You may choose to keep her home 1 or 2 days completely and just make that the norm if you feel that 5 full days is a lot for her.
Hmm.
And that is something
Okay.
that parents choose as well. But regardless, it is still going to be a big change. And I think the big thing is being able to have those conversations. Tell me how you're feeling. And feeling
Mm.
is using feeling words is a lot for children. But even like, just to get in touch with what's happening in your body, And she might say, oh, I feel it's like tight in my chest, or, little things like that to indicate it. Can we talk about it? And see if you can just
Okay.
encourage her to share about, what she's feeling, share about the experience of being in the school in the day, and just being open, providing that time one-on-one with her where she can articulate what's happening, and she can feel that, you're really interested. And I think that, in our busy lives, sometimes we forget about these little people, and that there's so much that's happening for them, and that they're not always
Mhm.
having opportunities for their voice to be heard, and that we can provide that for them. And just to always get a sense of how is she moving through this very new, newness of this experience and being in this environment, and who are her friends and what is she learning. And again, children are all different. Some really share, some really don't. So of course you don't ever want to push it either, but at least have her know, like, I'm excited to hear about your day, whenever you want to share. And I think that's it. And
Okay.
then also, I think cues are really good. A lot of times children aren't able to necessarily articulate, but you see it in the body language. You might see different shifts within, like, for example, it could be that she reverts a little bit in terms of her independence, or she might not sleep as well, or maybe her appetite changes. Like, there's things that happen sometimes with children that provide information that we need to be a little bit
Mhm.
of investigator to get a sense of what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't mean it's a
Mhm.
problem. It could just mean, like, I'm just trying to shift through this new change that I have. So,
Hmm. Okay. Good to know to be
yeah.
mindful of those things. Okay. So that's kind of how we help prepare our children for school. But I feel like one of the big things that us as parents need to consider is how we evaluate whether or not the public school system is best for us, or homeschooling, or alternative learning. I assume you have potentially some resources in place to kind of help parents make some of those decisions.
It's interesting that you say that. I don't have any specific resources, to be honest. It's often the parents come to me because they have really been intuitive to their child and their child's needs. Um,
Mm,
okay, there are some people online that I follow that help
mhm.
parents make the leap if they haven't already done so. I'm
Okay.
mostly speaking with parents who have pretty much made the leap. They've already come to me and they've made the
Mm,
leap. And I think there are some parents that are out there. But the first step is really just the awareness of, I'm not sure if this is going to work for my child, looking at my child and what they need. What I've noticed
mhm,
is that a lot of the children that are coming to us, the parents that have reached out, is they have children that they would, and again, I don't want to use this as a label, but the word that I hear a lot is sensitive, and which is interesting because I know
mm.
Amanda Evans talked a lot about that in her last
Yes.
episode. And
Mhm,
sensitive in terms of, and that could be sensory sensitive, it could be also sensitive emotionally, and just needing
mm,
something different, not kind of getting lost in a large group of children where they can't get their needs met. And I think all children are sensitive in different ways. I think we all are, and we all have
mhm,
needs. Some children are able to go into those environments differently than others, though, right? Like, there are some that just,
mm,
more the merrier, like um,
mhm,
so I, yeah, I really noticed that for parents, I think the first thing is the awareness of, what does my child need? And is this environment actually working for them? And also, I have to separate
mm,
my emotions in terms of, am I afraid? Am I worried? Am I putting something into this that doesn't need to be there? So
mhm,
how do I detach my own emotional response and fears and all the stuff that we do as parents to, because we want the best for our children and to protect them, and to really just observe,
mhm,
how are they doing and how are they communicating that to me through their words or actions or behaviors.
mm. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to process because I feel like I'm very much in the maybe I'm projecting some things onto her. So I'll need to
Right.
take a step back after we're done recording and kind of reevaluate some of that. But that was very helpful. Thank you. So I am curious. Kelly will be going full day every day. Is your Walnut Forest Academy set up similar? So that's an option for parents as well, or is it more of a reduced hours? Okay.
So we've created something that's really different that a lot of other sort of alternative schools don't necessarily do. So we are offering
Mhm.
a 5-day program, which is from
Mhm.
9 to 3:30. So we've actually extended our hours each day by a half hour. But then we have an
Oh.
extra break at March break, and we end a little earlier in June. But the amount of time spent in
Mhm.
at school is the same as you would in public school. Now, with that said,
Mhm.
we've also offered a 3-day as well as a 2-day option. So for families that are
Oh.
homeschooling, if they would like for their
Mhm.
child to go somewhere where they're in an environment with other children, doing something different than what they do at home, they might choose the 2-day or
Mhm.
the 3-day. And then there are other parents who say, I would really, I work full time. I think my child would love to be there 5 days, whatever their reasons. We have that 5-day option as well. And we're offering
Mhm.
that
Okay.
from JK up to grade 3 this year. And then every year we will
Oh.
increase it so that children can grow with us. And our plan is to go up to
Mm.
grade 8. So the age of, yeah,
Oh,
right, just
wow.
as a regular elementary school. And then
Mhm.
we're also offering something called Wild Wednesdays. And Wild Wednesdays
Mm.
is where we're not on our property at all. It's a fully immersive day in nature, and it's every other week.
Mhm.
And children in our 5 and 3-day program are already a part of that. But then we are also
Mhm.
inviting other families who would like their children to just have an outdoor experience. And some
Mhm.
people who are homeschooling take advantage of that. And it's also great if you have a child in public school and you want to give them a day out of the classroom. There's some interesting research
Mm.
that really looks at how when a child spends one day in nature, even just a day fully immersed in nature, how that could really change how they experience learning in the classroom. Because
Mm.
being in nature, is very healing. It allows us to be
Mhm.
mindful, to slow down, to connect to something beyond ourselves. And I don't know how you feel in nature, but it's like I just breathe
Better.
differently. Yeah. And I think most
Mhm.
people do. And it's interesting because in certain parts of the world, doctors are actually prescribing nature to their patients
Wow.
as part of their wellness program. That's become a
Hmm.
thing. Like I'm actually prescribing that you go out and spend so much time in nature because there's so much
Hmm.
that looks at how that really supports our well-being. And I think part of
Mhm.
learning is also very intricately connected to well-being. So we also have this 1-day program that, parents can choose if they really want their child to just have that break from school. And so that's another option. You could look for
Mhm.
like a forest school, an outdoor school in your neighborhood that you could put your
Yeah.
daughter in 1 day a week. Um, so there's so many different possibilities now. That's what I love. I think when my children were
Mhm.
younger, it was like you either did sort of an elite private school, which was very academic focused, or you did public school, which of course was academic
Mhm.
focused, but it just they were different. So there's a lot you can speak to those. But
Mhm.
now we're living in a time where people are saying, I want to look at all the possibilities. And, the pandemic
Mhm.
really shined a light quite clearly on the fragments that were happening in education. And so it has, just suddenly we've got these, this flourishing of all these different things and all these possibilities. So it's not like you have to choose one or the other, but you could do a combination.
Mhm.
And that's what I think is really interesting. It's almost like parents can take their child's education back a little bit and say, what
Mm.
I believe is best for my child. What is my child
Mhm.
truly need and what is possible for me as a parent too, because we have to consider
Mhm.
right now public school is free, which is obviously why many people choose
Yes.
it. And some people choose it even though they feel like it's not a very good choice. And there
Mhm.
are other people, right? So it's not possible for many families to say, okay, I'm going to be that homeschooling parent, or I'm going to put my child in an alternative program. And that's unfortunate. I wish our public
Mm.
school system was thriving way more, because it's just not serving many, many children. And the more marginalized you are, it seems to be serving them even less, unfortunately. You know,
Mm.
um, at least with parents that are really able to be with their children and really present with their children, you have the opportunity to help them more when they're at home too. But that's just not the reality of every child's life, unfortunately. So
Mhm.
what I see right now is this big shift, and that's a good thing. I think we need the shift to happen. We really need it. It'll take a while.
Mhm.
Like, I think it could take a full generation personally for things to
Oh, wow.
really right themselves. It could be longer. Like, from what I see and the educators I've spoken with and the things that I've researched, it could take a good generation for us to right all the things that are now glaringly not working for our children. That's
Wow. It's crazy to think about the fact that it takes such a long time to kind of see those changes when it kind of
yeah,
feels like we're already partially working on the solution. But I guess that
right.
does make sense. Institutions tend to move very slowly.
They do. Absolutely. And of course, then you have leaders that change and then agendas change. And that happens a lot in education too. I also find
Mhm.
that, unfortunately, things that work don't happen quickly. A lot of really solid
Mm.
solutions take time. And often in education, what happens is we want to move through them quickly. It's been a year, it's been 2 years, it didn't work. Let's find the next shiny object that's going to make it work. And so things
Mhm.
just are constantly shifting. And what happens is we often go back to things that, we were using maybe 10, 20 years ago. And we're like, oh, maybe we'll try it again. It's interesting. It's a very interesting sort of cyclical process. But where we'll
Mhm.
come out of this, I don't know. But I know that there's major, major changes happening. Um, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'm curious and excited to see sort of where it all goes from here. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And it was so nice to know that there are other options out there because I kind of thought that, my options were homeschool or public school. I didn't even realize that we as parents have the choice to only send them a few days a week. I kind of thought it was like an all or nothing sort of situation. So maybe now it'll be a time for me to have a conversation with my partner and be like, look, I'm still not sold on this. I know that you are, maybe we kind of split the difference and we send Talia a few days a week and we look at alternative options, whether it's homeschool or schools in our area that can kind of support it and see which environment she thrives in best. And then do more of that for her the following year, kind of thing. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
mhm.
I would love to talk about some of the other projects that you have on the go too, because I know this is not your only one. You do a lot just like I do.
That is true. And what would you like me to, is there anything in particular you'd like me to talk about?
I would love to hear more about your Love Project 365.
Sure. It probably helps if I start with like how it all began. And
Yes, that sounds great.
so the Love Project 65 is a business that I have that originally started as a blog. And in 2016,
Oh.
when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were the two candidates that were, fighting for presidency, I remember at the time thinking, wow, things are getting a little like contentious. And I really felt
Mm.
divisiveness in the world at that time. I mean, I had no idea that we were going into a pandemic where that would kind of explode into a whole different level. But I remember at the time thinking, we're so focused on sort of the what's not working and the negativity and the angst, and what about love? And something that
Mhm.
I've always been really fascinated by is the concept of love. And I don't just mean like, oh, I love my son, I love my daughter, I love my husband, like that kind of love, but this more of a consciousness sort of idea of love. Like, what does it mean to truly be in this world where we're coming from love, where we see the best in others, where we really learn to be gentle and kind to ourselves, where, love is not conditional. And I mean, I'm not doing something because I get a reward for it, but I do it because it
Mhm.
it truly feels like a really beautiful thing to do. And love is very much interwoven into many spiritual teachings, and I really see it as sort of
Mhm.
its opposite to fear. And what I saw was just so much fear around what was happening. So I thought, I actually woke up one morning and was like, I want to write a blog every day for an entire year on the topic of love. And
Mhm.
I am going to call it the Love Project 65. And I decided to start it on my
Wow.
birthday, which is in July. And I did it
Okay.
every day for that year. And it was really like, I just want to put love in the world. But I also knew that I had to be in my life in a different way. And it made me
Mm.
really pay attention. How am I spending my time? How am I communicating? Where am I getting impatient? How am I, with my family? And by the end of the year, I felt transformed. Like my understanding of gratitude had shifted, where I had
Mhm.
appreciation, um, just what it meant to be with others and to be in the world, again, just coming from that place. Am I coming from love? Am I coming from love? Was very apparent. So anyway, I did that for a whole year, and I would take little love notes and put
Mhm.
them up. And but it was also a lot to write every single day for an entire year.
Yes.
And I knew I wanted to come back to the Love Project. I just wasn't sure how. And so it took me a few years. I finished my PhD, and
Mhm.
I finally decided I would do it as a business. And I really wanted
Mm.
that business again to where I could start working with people in a coaching perspective, where it was
Mhm.
like, how can you truly live not only your best life, like really reach your full potential, but how can you do that from a really loving perspective?
Mhm.
Where we really focus more on, creating the love rather than getting stuck in the fear. And so that's sort of how the Love Project 365 kind of came back as this, and
Okay.
wanting to do some workshops. And I've done, different, workshops and things around that. And
Mhm.
then I decided I also wanted to kind of put more love out in the world, but writing every day, I just knew I didn't have the time. So I thought, well, I've been a dancer my whole life, so why not do it through dance? And so I
Mhm.
365-day challenge, where I call it it's a dance challenge, but it's really my love
Mhm.
note. And so I do it every day and I put it up on Instagram. And because for me, dance for me is my expression of love. And I know that when I
Mhm.
watch other people dance, or when I'm at a party, or I'm at a wedding, or I'm by myself, it's also something that brings me joy. And I think
Mhm.
we need to just have those little moments like that where we just shift whatever our mindset is back into, oh, this feels good, or oh, this feels like love, or oh, this. So it really, for me, yeah, that the project is just always, how do we keep what matters out in the forefront? And I
Mhm.
try and bring that into everything I do, with whether it's education or working one-on-one, my own life, my family. Um,
Mm.
so that's what the Love Project 365 is all about.
I love it. For the record, I very much enjoy watching your dance videos. So you started that in January then?
I did. I started it January 1st. I didn't tell anybody at first because I thought I might not stick with it.
Mhm.
But I usually when I set it in my mind that I'm going to do something, I'm like, just do it. So I'd say after about a week, I finally started saying, hey, I'm doing a 365 days of dance. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I finished December 31st. I have done 200, and today is 220.
That was what I was wondering. I was like, wow.
Sorry, Brittany, I've totally lost I can't hear you at
Okay.
all. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I love watching your dance videos, and I think that it's incredibly impressive that your movement as a professional dancer, but also your commitment to do something for such a long period of time. And I can only imagine, like, writing every day, it is a very transformative experience. I would love for you to share, if you don't mind, what some of the things have come up for you throughout this process.
Through the dancing every day. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so, so I'm gonna say I've never been a professional dancer, but I've danced my whole life. And I certainly performed a
Okay.
lot. But yeah, I've never
Mhm.
thought of myself as a professional, but I really love dance. And actually, one of the areas I've always dance is a huge part of education too. I'm a dance education specialist, so a lot of um, not only do I love to dance myself, but I love to help little ones, bring their world alive through dance, which we're going to be doing a lot in our school.
Aw.
But what's interesting about doing
Mhm.
it online, okay, so I've learned a few things. One, it's really hard to dance in front of a camera and kind of just so
Yeah.
there's this weird thing. So normally, like if there's music playing, it doesn't matter if I'm in my home or I'm at a party or I'm out on the street. Like if the music plays, I just want to move. And I don't think about it, and it's really
Mhm.
easy to do, but I'm not performing, I'm feeling, I'm just in it. When
Mhm.
you go, I'm going to put on the camera and I'm going to put on a little clip of song, and now I'm going to move to it. There's something that's actually not in the moment. I realize it's very performative. It doesn't feel as natural. And I've had to really work through that process. And so what happens is then I would get into
Mm.
this loop of, does it look good enough? Are people going to like it? And I'm
Mm.
like, that's not the purpose of what I'm doing here. The purpose of this is that I'm just
Mhm.
dancing. So I had to find ways to be like, I'm putting on this music because this music really calls to me, or this music tells a story of a time in my life. And I feel like I could tell the story of my life through music. I think a lot of people could, you know.
Mhm.
And so I try and capture that more than anything and sort of get with the music and then play. And so I've been having a lot more fun just putting it on and being like, just play, just feel it, let it go, and then stop. Let's record it again. Let's do it again. Let's play. Maybe put on a filter. How does that filter
Mm.
work? Sometimes the filters bring out a whole other side of me, like the one where my hair was pink, or there was one where I did like a Bon Jovi song and I had all this glitter on my face from a filter. And I was like, oh, it
Ah.
brought out this like other part of me and I realized what's happened is the play has been the very best part because when I come from that
Mhm.
perspective, like, I have this
Mhm.
song, I love this song, I have a story with this song, I'm going to play with this song. The world around me leaves and I'm suddenly just present.
Mm.
And then I
Mhm.
just say my intention is I'm creating something that feels good to me. And if it feels good to me, then
Mhm.
I'm going to trust that that good feeling, that love, that play is going out in the world, and whoever is meant to receive it is going to receive it. And then it is going to
Mhm.
give them a good feeling. And they're going to
Mhm.
feel that. And then I let it go. And that's it. There's no attachment. So it's been an interesting process of just coming to yeah, that just I'm doing it for me and trusting it's going out there. Again, it's being received, but then I just let it go. I don't I spend very little time now thinking, do I look okay? Does anybody think, oh my God, what is she doing? It's like it doesn't matter because you know what, people judge all the time,
Don't think
like,
that.
right? No, but you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's just like and I think that's
Yes.
a good way
Yeah.
to live. Like I think what it is it's really helped me go, how do not only do I want to live, but how do I want when I'm in the classroom with my students or I'm coaching somebody, do I want to just be like, you
Mhm.
know, what is the best way to live? It is really through just finding this beautiful place that's really about play and it's about
Mhm.
freedom. Like what do you want to feel? And so as I've been experiencing it, it's easier for me to share that with others in other capacities too, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm. It does. And one of the things that I would say is that watching your videos, it feels very authentic. Like it feels almost like someone else is kind of just turned the camera on while you're doing your own thing and you're dancing. And I just kind of love seeing that little window into what brings you happiness and kind of like what you're up to in your day. So I definitely enjoy the project a lot. I
Oh, thank
am curious though, if you have any. You're welcome. If you have any tips or recommendations for other people looking to kind of do something like this, do we dive in head first to something we're committing to for 365 days, or kind of is there like a toe in the water thing that we could try first?
I think one, I think you just, if you have an idea and it feels good and you just like, oh, I just want to go for it, I think you should. And, 365 days might feel like a lot, maybe 100 days feels
Mhm.
better, maybe
A little bit.
30 days, right? But there's something
Mhm.
about showing up for ourselves every day for something that we chose to
Mhm.
do. Um, that's a really
Mhm.
interesting experience and kind of an experiment as well, because it does bring up stuff around like
Mhm.
how we use our time or like who am I doing this for? Is it for me? Is it for somebody? Like,
Mhm.
especially in a time where a lot of it to keep us on track, we might share with somebody else to be accountable. In mine, I'm sharing it on my feed every day.
True.
Um, but yeah, I think sometimes it's better not to overthink and to go with our gut. What intuitively are you feeling? And if it's just kind of like this calling, then I say answer the call.
Mhm. That makes sense. I kind of resonate with that a little bit too, in the sense of, like I do my workouts. I do more workouts than dancing, although I should dance because I very much enjoy dancing. I was a cheerleader for most of my youth, and then I did a little bit of like hip hop and stuff like that too. Um, but committing to like a workout program that I think is kind of a little bit out of my reach or comfort zone, and then getting up every day and doing it, and then feeling accomplished after each workout, but then at the end of the program being like, I really didn't think I could do this, and then look at me, here I am. There's definitely something to that, and how powerful that is.
I think that when we commit to ourselves, whatever it is, it really shows us what we are personally capable of and how
Mm-hmm.
how we can grow through that process. And day one always feels like the hardest. And it seems like, oh my gosh, I have so long to
Mm.
go. But like I look and think, I'm at day 220. It is remarkable that I have created
Wow.
220 different dances. Like that kind of blows my mind. That's a
Yeah.
lot of because it's for me, it's very creative too. So I'm always, thinking of different fun, creative
Mm-hmm.
ways, places. But whether it's a workout or
Mm-hmm.
sleeping, going to bed early or whatever it is, like those numbers add up very quickly. And there is such a beautiful sense of accomplishment of what we're doing for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves that it only grows. And, and how you may not notice immediately the changes within yourself, whether that is, you know, um, having less anxiety or just having that better sleep, feeling more rested, losing weight, whatever it is. But there's a moment where you
Mm-hmm.
suddenly go, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it, but I just realized, wow, look at where I am. Like, but you have to just start,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But I do think
Mm-hmm.
it's good to have reasonable expectations, right? Like some people are like, January 1st, I'm gonna go out and I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. And so it's like,
No.
uh, yeah, if you say it and you go and it creates dread, maybe it's too much.
That is fair. That is fair. You know what? And I also don't like starting things on January 1st because I feel like there's too much like stigma and hype around it. I'm better off
Sure.
starting and committing to things other times of the year. I find I'm more consistent, but Yeah.
I was going to
There was
say,
one other thing that
sorry,
I wanted. Hmm?
just going to say one
No,
thing
go
I
ahead.
loved about starting on my birthday when I did the initial love project.
Mm,
It was also kind of a gift to myself. It was like a birthday to a birthday. And there's something about birthdays,
mm.
like, hey, this is my day. And I find a lot of people reflect about their life and on their birthdays. So sometimes it is good to start to pick a totally other random day than, like you said, January 1st, which is, yeah. Anyway, that's all I was going to say.
No, we had kind of chatted a little bit before too about the topic of investing in yourself as an individual and a business owner, which I think kind of ties to what we're talking about now, committing to something for long periods of time that bring us joy. So I'm curious what your take and experience is with investing in yourself. You've had a very diverse career path and personal journey, so I'm sure you've learned a lot that you can share with our audience.
Yeah. Um, well, it certainly hasn't been an easy path, and yet it's probably been one of the most rewarding, you know, in the sense that
Okay.
I think what I love about investing in myself and sort of you're talking like being an entrepreneur and running my own business is that I get to use 100% of my creativity. I get to really make the decisions. I
Mm,
get to yeah, I get to stop something that doesn't feel good and start something that does. And like at any moment I can pivot because I get to make those decisions for myself. But
mhm.
you have to have a lot of trust going through that kind of process as well. Like when you work obviously for somebody else, you have a different level of security. But you may not get to determine, your hours, your pay, your um, you know, it can affect your mental well-being, like all of those things. So yeah, I don't know if that helps answer your question, but
I was curious what maybe you've done to invest in yourself. Have you hired coaches? Do you find that your love
oh,
projects
I
have
see.
been
Sorry.
exactly what you needed? That's
So
okay.
yes, investing in myself. So I actually, yes, I have worked with a woman now for over 20 years who I still
Mm,
continue to have sessions with on a regular basis. So
mhm,
she really supports me with my mental well-being and just always being able to look at where I am in my life and the decisions I'm making and having that person who, if I can't see clearly, she can help me find the clarity that
mhm,
I need that's within through
mm,
just conversation and asking questions.
mhm,
And then, of course, I've been a part of a business group that's really specific to supporting me grow as a business owner and really learning the things
mm,
that I didn't learn when I went to university and was doing my degrees in education. And as you and I, we're very much we're in this business sort of venture together where we get support from other people.
mhm,
So I definitely think that, it's really important to have those people by your side, so that the
mhm,
more that I understand about myself, the more that I can support the people that I'm working with. So yeah, that's what I
yeah.
really believe in. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. And then one final question before we wrap up today. If you don't mind sharing something that you've maybe failed at or haven't done as well as you maybe would have liked and what you learned from that, because I find that there's so much beauty in it. You are actually fantastic at sharing some of those opportunities in our Failure Fridays that we do in the Monarch community.
Sorry, can you ask the question again? Because I think I missed the beginning of it.
I was just wondering what throughout your journey you have maybe not done as well as you would have liked or failed at, and what you learned from that process.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, where do I start? That's a big question, Brittany. Hmm. I think the one thing that's coming to mind that I keep coming back to is my mindset. I tend to be somebody
Mm,
that can be very hard on herself. and I can get caught
Mm.
in what is not working or what I perceive is not working, or where I
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
more. I need to get more education, or I need to read more. I need to, like, often that kind of not enough loop. And it's
Mhm.
really important for me to shift out of that and say, these are stories that I tell myself, they're not the truth. And
Mhm.
and I get way better at acknowledging, okay, here's a story. There I am in
Mhm.
this loop. So it's not a matter of if it'll come, it's usually when, but it's like the awareness of it and then how I can shift out of it. And so it's definitely helped take me down a path where I've learned a lot more about what my personal triggers are, how my nervous system gets activated when I go into survival mode, and how to come back to that place of I'm safe, I'm already
Mhm.
whole and complete. And what can I learn in this moment? And then how do I shift out of it and go back
Mhm.
to doing this work that I absolutely love, that I'm so passionate about, and just focus on today? And I think that's the other thing, is just getting really rooted in all I need to do is be here right now in this moment. It's okay to plan ahead, but I can't live there. I need to be here. So that's, I would say, the one thing
Mhm.
that I'm keep coming back, I come back to is, how to just always shift back to this present moment and really just being with the knowing that I am enough. So
Mhm. Mhm. That is great insight. And something that I struggle with a lot too, the feeling of I need to do more, I need to do more, or, I should be growing faster, I should have more clients. And Amanda in the Monarch community likes to say, don't shit all over yourself, which sounds fantastic, but it's hard to put into practice. I don't know whether it's just me and maybe my personality type, but I always want to be able to help people, and I know that I don't know everything. So much like you were saying earlier, the feeling that I should be learning more continuously is very, it takes me out of the present moment, I guess, to use your reference. And I need to do a better job about staying in the present moment and appreciating kind of how far I've come, and then also know that I will continue to grow at a
yeah.
pace that is appropriate for me and my business.
Someone once told me this was the wisest thing when I said, I feel like I haven't reached my full potential. And she said, then if you reached it right now, what would be ahead of you? And I was like, oh, it was kind of like,
Mm.
right, like I'm not meant to be at the destination and to stick that pole in the top of the summit and stay there. Like it's always a journey, and we're always growing and
Mm.
learning. And we continue. Like, I believe that I am an expert in my area. Like, I know that I'm an exceptional
Mm.
educator, but I still have lots to learn. But that doesn't mean that I don't know enough. It just means that I'm still on the road. And I have to
Mm.
remind myself that sometimes, like, yeah, there's always going to be something in my field that is going to be new. But that should be exciting,
Mm.
right?
True.
That's where I go, ooh, I didn't know
Mhm.
about that. That is so cool. How can I bring that in? Like, that feels good. I'm going to implement that. And because I know so much already, then, I can find these really interesting ways to, like, use that information and grow with it. And then there'll be another thing. And some things won't feel good, but I think that's what I'm always reminding myself, is that, yeah, like, you know, just to be on the journey, on the path, and to never feel that there has to be some ultimate summit that you get to. And
Mhm.
within, I mean, where I was in my 20s versus my 30s versus my 40s, I'm in my 50s now. So it's been a really, really interesting, sort of growth. Yeah.
Mhm. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us and for being on our episode today. I know I personally learned a lot from you about being in the present moment, and also about the different options that are available to us parents that have children that are heading off into the school system. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your expertise with us. And I hope that those people listening learned a few things as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller Socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.